next writer has some prose to share with you. She graduated high school here in Las Vegas at the age of 16, completed a BA in English at UNLV, started working on an MA in English, then proceeded into the MFA Creative Writing program, all by the age of 21. Now that she is a Master of Fine Arts and getting ready for an international move, I have no doubt that with her tenacity and vibrant spirit, she'll accomplish everything she sets her mind to along the way. Please help me welcome Timea Balogh.
Damn it, Carly, you know too much about me. I really have no idea how to sum up into just a few sentences the 3 most formative years of my life, so I'm simply going to say that I'm happy to have gotten to know all of you in these past 3 years, to have gotten to know your work, and to have found another family in the place where I grew up. And now before I start crying and cry all my makeup off, I'm going to read to you the first 3 pages of a story I've been working on called False Sun. When we were little, our father helped draw plans for pathways up the side of one of the mountains that bordered our village, and then the other, so that those in good health could climb them in the winter to sun themselves, gather the warmth of that sun and bring it back for the others. He helped try to carve the paths too, but after several years, he and the other men in the village halted the projects. They could not make any substantial progress, for in the winter, the nightly snowfall would undo their many hours of daily work, and in the summer, when the ice walls melted, the rush of the waterfalls were too heavy to navigate the steep paths. There were many landslides, near-death experiences. The torrential summer river that split our village in two was salty with their sweat, and later, when the men gave up on the projects for good, the tears of those in our village. While we could see the sun perched above the snowy peaks during the few hours of winter daylight, it could not rise high enough over the 2 mountains between which our village was wedged for its rays to reach us. And so we could... Did my mic go out, like, mid? Okay, cool. And so we could not feel the sun on our faces half of the year. This fact never tormented me the way it did our village and my family in particular. I'd loved winter since I was old enough to decide what I loved. I loved the way the cold intruded on the body, how it did not ask for welcome, like an uninvited, obnoxious guest. I loved how it seeped through all the layers we piled on to brace against it, sunk deep beneath our skin and wrapped around our bones like a blanket we could not shake off. And I loved the snow, how it coated everything, leveled everything, smoothed out the uneven terrain, and stored what summer had abruptly left behind, put it off for a comfortable stretch of time. And I loved the dark, that it did not ask us to face anything. So I was the wrong person to try to understand my family's obsession with the light, the sun. Our mother had come from the desert. She knew the dangers of an over-generous sun and had passed them on to us, not through her words, but through the sagging flesh on her arms and calves, the deep wrinkles that framed her auburn eyes and small mouth. Still, it was the generosity of the sun she grew up under that eventually pulled her back into the cooked heart of the desert. All my adult life, I consoled myself with the thought that she left my sister and me behind because we were children born and bred of winter, of snow, of frost, come to maturity below a weak winter sun, but never in it. I wasn't certain, though, that some part of her had not known, woman of the desert that she was, that she could only live in darkness and in winter for so long, and that bringing her children into this darkness and into this winter would inevitably mean leaving them there, once the desert called her back for good. We had long forgotten about the days the men had foolishly tried to carve paths up the mountains by the time my sister worked her way up one with our father's ice axes and mounted 3 full-length mirrors to reflect the winter sun into the village. Where she got the idea, I did not know. We did not speak much before she left, though we never spoke much in the winter. One night, not long before she plucked the mirrors from our walls, we crossed paths in the dark cavern of our kitchen as I came home from the pharmacy. I'd taken my coat and boots off in the foyer, but the cold still clung to me. Ice crystals danced around me like so many blinking stars. My sister shivered before the window, watching the falling snow with hooded eyes. She cradled a steaming mug of tea in her palms, sucking in its warmth whatever way she could. She did not turn to face me, clearly not interested in how I wore the cold. Instead, she asked if I remembered the times that our father would call us outside and shoot a black crow out of the sunny winter sky, snatch it up from the snow, and tell us to press its back against our cheeks. Our father let out a groan from where he slept in the corner of the room then, as though he'd heard her and were reflecting fondly on the memory. We were no strangers to warmth, even as children. We'd learned to build a fire before we'd learned to walk, but our father told us there was nothing comparable to the heat of the sun. The line always fell flat on my ears for how over-rehearsed it sounded leaving his cracked lips. "Come work with me at the pharmacy," I told my sister softly. There was plenty there to mimic the warmth she was looking for, but I could not tell her until she came to see for herself. "What, so I can medicate the village into believing they are deprived of nothing?" she asked. Her laugh had a biting edge that cut through the crystals hovering around me. They fell on the hardwood, emitting light, popping sounds like the mildest of hailstorms. "I supplement what they feel so deprived of," I said, raising my voice higher than I'd meant to. She blew on the mouth of her mug. "I cannot live half my life in darkness," she said. Her voice sounded like she was crying, but when she turned to me, I saw that her eyes were dry, like her hands in the winter, like everyone's hands in the winter. It was after that conversation that she plucked the mirrors from our walls and locked herself in the attic for weeks. In the mornings, as I was waking up, I would hear the front door open and shut behind her, hear her stomping the snow off her boots, and as she undressed, I'd hear the clink of our father's ice picks hitting each other, like silverware striking a crystal glass. I told myself I did not know what she was up to, and because we'd seen our father fail to stop our mother from leaving, I knew that if my father and I were not enough to keep my sister here, then no amount of pleading could change her mind about going. Thank you.